Today we're going to rank every new and returning Pokemon introduced in the Teal Mask DLC for competitive. Tier lists suck, but I have a great editor, so this tier list will be fun to watch, I promise. Alright, we're just going to go right in order. Starting right here, looks like it's alphabetical with Arbok. It's going to be a D tier. Arbok has Intimidate. That's a good ability. It does a few things. It has Glare, but its stats just aren't enough. There's better Intimidators around, like Hisuian Arcanine, Gyarados, even the Tauroses are better, and they haven't really seen play since. I have a soft spot for Alolan Sandslash, because Alolan Sandslash, Alolan Ninetales was one of the first competitive teams I ever built. But realistically, this thing just gets outclassed by its a Titan, and once again, that's not even a Pokemon that's really seen play, so he's gonna go down in D tier. Same with Sandslash, but just doesn't really have a niche. Clefable we're gonna put in C tier. Now, Clefable is generally less good than Clefairy, because Clefairy has access to Follow Me Friend Guard, and it loses Friend Guard when it evolves. But Clefable with Magic Bounce is kind of hard to interact with, so it can be an okay setup sweeper with Calm Mind, but it's not really a thing. Alolan Ninetales I'm going to put in A tier, but this might be a lot worse than it looks. So fast Aurora Veil is really, really strong, but we're a few days into the metagame already, and Manual Sun Hyper Offense with Tornadus and the Fire-type Ogerpon, which we'll talk about soon, has already shown itself to be really, really, really strong, and Alolan Ninetales just can't do its thing if Sunny Day gets turned on when it tries to click Aurora Veil. So A, but the metagame might shove it out. Kantonia Ninetales, I'm a little interested in. Whenever you've wanted a drought Pokemon, it's always been Torkoal. Usually it's been Torkoal and then one fast Chlorophyll Pokemon, and that was your Sun package. But now with all the Photosynthesis Pokemon, like Fluttermane and Roaring Moon and Great Tusk, we have a lot more fast Sun abusers. And Ninetales keeps pace with them a lot better than Torkoal does, because it's faster. Poliwrath's a C tier mon. It is a Swift Swim Pokemon with Belly Drum, so it's a very fast Belly Drum Pokemon, so it doesn't do nothing. But in general, it is significantly worse than the other Swift Swim Pokemon like Basculegion, and even Basculegion gets outclassed as a rain abuser by Pokemon like Urshifu Rapid Strike, like Scarf Rapid Strike. So he's gonna go in C tier. I don't put Victory Bell in C as well. It's a little frail. It is slower than the other Chlorophyll Pokemon we've been using in this format, like both Lilligants and Jumpluff. But the one thing it does have going for it is it gets Acid Spray, and fast Acid Spray is really strong. We saw people using that on Iron Moth in Regulation B, I think it was. And there's just historically, fast Acid Spray has been strong, especially now that we have a fast-ish special attacker like Ninetales. It could do something if you really wanted to, and it does get access to the Chlorophyll Sleep Powder, but it's just kind of outclassed by the other options. A Golem, I'm just gonna put straight in D tier. It doesn't really do anything super unique, anything that makes it stand out as a slow rock attacker. So Dipplin is bad. Dipplin is a bad Pokemon, but it's really cool. Its ability is really strong. It can access to some good stall-y moves like Recover and Infestation. And we found out recently that Dipplin actually gets Eviolite. I guess that means it's going to get an evolution in the next DLC. So it doesn't do nothing. And you can do cute stuff like make your Bleak Windstorms hit all the time. So we're going to put it in C tier. Sinistra, I think this one is called, has a lot of good tools, right? Like Hospitality is a very strong ability. Rage Powder is great. 80 or 90 base power special grass type attack that's spread and is both Scald and Absorb is huge. The only problem is there are so many good grass types right now. There is a Moongus, there's Rillaboom, there's all of the Ogerpons. There's just a lot of Pokemon fighting for that slot, so I'm gonna put this in B tier, but it could end up A, honestly. I don't expect any of the Loyal 3 to be good, spoiler alert, but this one, Okidogi, has a good ability. Guard Dog is strong, and it deters Intimidate, and Landorus is really popular, and Landorus will just keep getting more popular because Terraflying Terrablast Landorus is really good into Ogerpon. So this one is the one I'd be least surprised if it shows up, but it's still the third or fourth best fighting type, right? It has to, there's Urshifu, there's Iron Hands. Urshifu is kind of seeing a downswing right now because of how much Manual Sun there is to deal with Tornadus and the Fire type Ogerpon, but I don't think that'll last too long. Monkey Dory is a C tier mon, right? It has a good utility move pool, it has Fake Out, it has Parting Shot, and it has okay special attack. It has pretty good special attack. The problem is it's doesn't have the bulk to be a supporting Pokemon, really, right? It's very frail. You have to give it a Focus Sash, and its special attack typings aren't great. Psychic Poison coverage isn't very good. And there's a million good special attackers right now. We got Fluttermane, we got Chi-Yu, we got Iron Bundle, we got Bloodmoon Ursaluna, we got Sinistra. There's a lot of competition, and I really don't know if it's the best at anything. Pheasantipity, I'm gonna put in C tier, but I actually think this is the one that I would be the least surprised if it sees play, because it does the most unique thing. It is the best one of the three at proccing Toxic Chain, because it just has lots of spread moves it likes to spam, like Dazzling Gleam and Icy Wind. It gets access to Tailwind, and it's just pretty bulky. I don't actually think it'll be good, but this was like a Moxie boosted kind of Pokemon, right? Like, this feels like something Marcos was gonna roll up with his Wo-Chien and this thing and like a Hex Pokemon and just do his thing. Rock Ogerpon is gonna go in A tier. I think this is the worst of the four, but so basically all the Ogerpons have the same stats. Their IV Cudgel move changes type based on which mask you're wearing, and they get different abilities, and they get different stat boost with the Terrestrialize. This one gets defense boost. But its ability is sturdy. And Ogerpon does have access to Swords Dance Hornleech, which I think is a pretty powerful thing, and Rock is just a good attacking type. It's like Rock Grass is pretty good attack coverage, and I think Swords Dance Hornleech is a thing you might want to do with this Pokemon, and I think if you do that, then the Rock type one with Sturdy is just the way to most consistently get your Swords Dance going. So it'll probably be good, but I think it's the worst of the three. This guy, if there was like a tier above S, I'd put it up here. Fire Terra Ogerpon is an absolutely broken in half Pokemon. It has a good attack stat to start with. It gets the 2x stab boost with Terrestrialization, and it gets an attack buff. This thing is literally Zacian Crowned. Like, I don't care if that sounds like hyperbole. This Pokemon is, they nerfed Zacian Crowned going into Scarlet and Violet because they knew this guy existed, and they were like, we can't have 2 Zacian Crowns at once. We can only have 1 Zacian Crowned, and we need this one to be the good one because it sells the DLC. It hits so hard, it is ridiculous. This thing one-shots Iron Hands, this thing can one-shot Cresselia, and these are all like jolly calcs. If you want to get into adamant stuff, you could probably blow up the moon. I don't know. It is ridiculous. If you're playing a Tailwind team and you're not running it, you're dumb. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's very, 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 very strong. But it's also the easiest one to build around. So maybe I'm over-exaggerating because it's the one that was most like, oh, I'll put it on Tailwind and then I'll have a turret like Sunny Day and I'll do all the damage. That's what I did. That's how I started team building in this format. Next up, we have the Water one. This one gets Water Absorb and it gets a special defense boost when it terrestrializes. This is another S-tier Pokemon. If you told me 3 months into this format that the Water Ogerpon was the best one, I would believe you. The reason for that is every Ogerpon gets followed, and the Water Grass Ogerpon has Water Absorb, so it can redirect Surging Strikes for free, and it has a Grass type, so it can redirect Spore for free, and that's an extremely powerful combination of traits to have. And because of the free stat boost and the increased crit chance and whatever, you can build this thing to be bulky and supportive, and it will still deal good damage with its stab moves. Like, you just run like, I don't know, Protect, Follow Me, Ivy Cudgel, Woodhammer, and it's gonna bop stuff real hard. Now, this Ogerpon doesn't get the 1.2 times boost the other ones do from their masks. In exchange for that, it gets to hold an item, which can be really strong. Its default ability is Defiant, and it Terras to get a speed boost. So the ability to like sit there and get a Defiant boost and then immediately get a speed boost is really, really, really strong. The only thing about this one is having Ivy Cudgel be Grass is like kind of medium. So you have to run like off typing coverage. And its attack stat's not that great if you're not boosting all these multipliers like the other ones do. So it's still very good. I think it's better than the Rock one because you can do a lot with having an item. It gets like Grass, it gets a Bullet Seed, so you do like loaded dice if you really wanted to. So it goes in S tier. Galar Weezing goes in B tier, and Kanto Weezing goes in A tier. Now the reason for this is basically these two have access to the ability Neutralizing Gas, which is really, really strong because it turns off most other abilities. What I've seen on ladder is people running Kanto Weezing next to Roaring Moon, because Roaring Moon is like a good Tailwind setter that doesn't rely on Prankster and can't be taunted. So it's like a pretty good way to like deal with the Tauren Ogerpon type teams. And you can do like cute stuff with it by turning off negative abilities like Truant, but it's better just to use this thing to be a disruptive piece. Now, the reason I put Kanto Weezing at A and Galar Weezing at B is because Pure Poison is better defensive typing in this format, I'm pretty sure. At least right now. Galar Weezing has to be really, 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 really scared if there's a Golden Go on the field. Not so much with Kanto Weezing. I'm gonna put Snorlax in, like, low B tier. There's just not a lot it does that's worth thinking about, unfortunately. It still can do, like, Curse stuff and Belly Drum stuff and Recycle stuff. It can do, like, an Assault Vest set with Heavy Slam. Seeing how the pace of the format's been so far, even from, like, the Trick Room teams, Snorlax is, like, very methodical. Like, I'm going to sit here and deal, like, chunk things and exert pressure, but not really threaten Okos unless I get set up. Just doesn't really feel like the way the format's going. So I'm gonna put him in B tier. Furret goes in D tier. It's Furret. It gets Follow Me and Cleanup, which is cool. I bet there's gonna be like some low Smogon tier where this thing is gonna like spam Cleanup then Extreme Speed, but not here. Noctowl, it has a few tools, right? Like, it has a few things it can do. It has like that like early gen like deep move pool, but it just doesn't have the stats. Ariados, It's one of the worst Pokemon ever made.
That kind of hurted me though. Cause it's like, why would you think that of me?
Politoed's great. I really like Politoed. I love Rain in this generation. I loved the Azumarill Pelipper Rain team. I played NAIC. I like Pelipper. Got my little dude right here. But my issue with this guy, once we got into Regulation D, is that there are a lot of flying types you really want to play on a team. There's Zapdos, there's Thundurus, there's Tornadus, and all these Pokemon share weaknesses with Pelipper. And Rain teams are already forced to share weaknesses because, you know, you want your Rain setter and your water and your abuser, so you're gonna have 2 water types already. And like, so you're already doubling up on some weaknesses, which you can play around for the most part, but adding another weakness to double up into, especially one that's super common like Rock, is a big deal, right? Because there's gonna be Landslide Landuruses running around, and this new Rock Ogerpon and other things, right? So Politoed giving us that option is really useful. I also think Politoed with its bulk allows Rain teams to slow down. Like, you're still putting as much pressure on as you can with your Rain, with your Swift Swim Pokemon like Dasky Legion, but with this style, you can much more easily play a balancey game with like an Iron Hands and an Intimidator and stuff like that. So Politoed, I think it'll take a little while to figure out, but I think it'll be very good. I guess this is supposed to be Gligar and Gliscor. Singles players, I'm happy for you that Gliscor got a bunch of buffs, but not here. We're gonna put Piloswine here as well. We'll just jump to Mamoswine now, though. Mamoswine, D tier. Mamoswine, just Ground Ice is great coverage. It hits hard. It's bulky-ish. I don't know if that's true. It might show up as like a Tailwind Mon or like a Scarfer. If we reach a point where like ground and ice coverage is really useful, they'll probably show up. Mightyena is a D tier, unfortunately. It's just not a lot of those better than other Intimidators. This is sad. I think Ludicolo is a C tier Pokemon, and I'm gonna tell you why. So Ludicolo has gotten power crept. Right? Like, it used to be enough that you'd have your pretty okay Life Orb special attacker with Fake Out doing stuff on your Rain team. Like, that's like your pressure, right? But why would I like Hydro Pump off a 90 special attack? I think it's 90, low special attack, when I could just click a Terra Water Wave Crash in the rain, whatever, or a Surging Strikes, right? Like, he's just kind of getting outclassed, and he's not that great defensively either. Because while Water Grass isn't bad defensive typing, by setting up Rain, you're making your opponent's Tornaduses, Bleak Windstorms 100% accurate. And that is scary, because that move is good, and you will play against a lot of those. So it's a big deal. Shiftry is literally worse Brambleghast. Like, I get it, it's exciting, he's a cool Pokemon, he got Wind Rider, so now we can do cool stuff like Brambleghast could, but it's just, his attack stat is lower, his grass type stab has less BP, and like, I played Brambleghast at Pittsburgh. I hate Power Whip. I do not want to get into how many Power Whips I missed at Pittsburgh. But the point is, it doesn't have enough power behind it. It's gonna miss important knockouts. Its other niches, like that can set Tailwind for itself. Non-Prankster Tailwind Pokemon in a format this high power level don't seem very good to me. It's cool, you can try it, it's not good. These two are going in C tier. And the only reason they're going in C tier is because they are prankster Pokemon with a lot of options. So like, if you can afford to put your Focus Sash on one of these two, and there's like a very specific combination of support moves you want, they might be your guys. So try it. I don't know. Crawdon goes in D tier. It's slow and fragile, and this breaks my heart because Crawdon is one of my favorite Pokemon ever made. Next we have Milotic. This guy's great. Whoop. Competitive's a very strong ability. We have had a dearth of special bulky waters, and this Pokemon gets Scald, which has been missing for a long time. Combination of Scald and Ice Beam means this thing can, number one, pressure the hell out of Landorus, and it already discourages Landorus because it's a competitive Pokemon. And two, Scald does good damage, but it always pressures Burn. So let's say you have your Fire type, and you want to switch out into your Rillaboom, because you know I'm going to Scald that slot. There's still just a little less than 1/3 chance that I burn your Rillaboom, and that's great. So it's just a very non-committal move that punishes your opponent for not taking action. And that's great. Chimecho doesn't do anything. This guy's not legal. Torterra got Shell Smash, which is cool. It's still so slow. Don't play with Torterra. Infernape is a fast fake-out Pokemon with good stabs. Like, Fighting Fire is pretty good coverage. Well, they kind of overlap, but they're still strong attacking types. You can run like a mixed set with Overheat and Close Combat, because special attack and attack are the same, but it's kind of power crept at this point. Like, its attacking stats aren't very high, it just has lots of high base power moves. If you need like a fast fake out Pokemon, and you need a way to like Okoamungus and an ice type and something else. Infernape, I could see a team where the stars align for Infernape to be good. Now, Empoleon is interesting. Empoleon's ability switched from Defiant to Competitive, which is huge because it's a special attacker. And it gets some pretty good moves. Like, it gets Vacuum Wave now, which is a great way to pressure Chin-Pow. It gets Yawn, it gets Flip Turn. My only problem with it is it is less bulky than Milotic and doesn't really exert that much more pressure. And because of that, I think a lot of times Milotic's going to be better. Empoleon's Steel typing kind of works against it right now because it means it gets hit neutrally by the very scary Terra Fire Ogerpon as opposed to resisting it like Milotic does, and that's a big deal. Next we have Ambipom, or whatever this thing is. It's bad. Yanmega's bad, Gliscor is bad, Probopass gets Body Press, gets Wide Guard, it has pretty good defenses. I don't expect it to show up, but it could. I'm gonna pretend this is Duskclops, not Dusknoir. B tier. It's a good Trick Room setter, hard to deal with, has a good support move pool, Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Trick Room obviously, but I don't know how it fares in a Chin-Pow, Fluttermane, Chi-Yu world. It's just kind of a bad time to be a Ghost type, so that's why he's not higher on the list. But all the three of those Pokemon also pressure Cresselia really well, and Cresselia is still pretty good, so maybe I'm probably being conservative here. These aren't legal. Conkeldurr is gonna go in, like, high C tier. Now, the thing with Conkeldurr is that it is a bulky Guts Trick Room Pokemon. We already have one of those. It's called Ursaluna. Ursaluna has way better stats than Conkeldurr does. But Conkeldurr does get one thing Ursaluna doesn't, and that is Mach Punch. Mach Punch is a pretty big deal. Gives it a way to put on pressure outside a Trick Room, where Ursaluna just kind of flops over usually. So that's not nothing. If you end up on a team where that's relevant, it might be time for Conkeldurr, but I'd be surprised. Leavanny and Swanna are bad Pokemon. I'm gonna put Minshao in C tier for this format, but it will be B tier when Incineroar comes back. Minshao's big thing is that it's inner focus, so it's immune to Fake Out, and it's immune to Intimidate, which means if your opponent leads Incineroar, you can lead Minshao and very, very safely play close combat and just delete Incineroar off the board, and it gets access to Wide Guard, which is really valuable when Pokemon like Calyrex Shadow Rider, Ice Rider, Kyogre, and Groudon are running around, because they all have these crazy powerful spread moves. So in restricted formats, we will probably see an okay amount of Minshao, but right now it's okay. I'm actually gonna put this guy in C tier. Now, Mandibuzz was good in Sword and Shield, early format, Tailwind, some supporty stuff, Foul Play. But the problem with it now is just like, the format's been power crept, right? Like, there are so many other dark types to run, like Chi-Yu, Chin-Pow, and there's so many better Tailwind Pokemon, like Tornadus and, I don't know, Murkrow, Talonflame, that there's just not a lot of room for this guy anymore. So he's gonna go in C tier. Maybe there's some like non-committal bulky team that wants Tailwind sometimes. We also have Galarian Moltres. So actually, you go in D tier. I just don't see a place for you. Trevenant, it's kind of similar. I don't really see a place for him. He's not a bad Pokemon. Like Trick Room, Hornleech, these are all strong moves, but Megavolt's going in C tier. It is probably worse than the current Trick Room Pokemon we have access to, like Ursaluna and Torkoal. But it is an electric type Trick Room Pokemon, which is somewhat unique. So we'll put it in C tier. Actually, you go in C tier, man. But that hit my mind. Cutie Fly is another C tier mon. It has a lot of cool utility moves like Skill Swap and Sticky Web and Speed Swap. It doesn't have Skill Swap, only Speed Swap. But I mean, that can be enough in weird situations. But the problem is, it's like, it was fast when it came out, and now it's kind of slow. Like, it's a little slow for a Speed Swap Pokemon. Como goes in like high C tier. This thing has a few sets it can run. It can run Clangorous, like setup stuff, Body Press, Iron Defense. It can run Dragon Dance if you really want to do, but don't run physical Como, I don't think. And it gets Overcoat, which means it'll be protected from Spore, which is a big deal. So if there is a way to make setup good, Como will probably be good. I'm kind of the opinion that setup is dying. Like, you can have Pokemon like Swords Dance Iron Hands who are like super, super, super bulky and can just like, by the nature of their bulk, set up with like a Swords Dance, but Pokemon that like you to make room for them with your partner, and it kind of becomes your whole game plan, I'm not a big fan of, and I think that kind of strategy is kind of dying as pure base stats and pure optimization continues. So C tier. Cramorant, it's Cramorant. Come on. Same thing with this guy. So Bloodmoon Ursaluna, cool Pokemon, and a bunch of these guys are, but I did a whole breakdown on this guy. I think it is not bad. It is, you look at those stats, you go, those are big numbers. It is not going to be very good in the metagame. it like needs Assault Vest because it has a bunch of its special bulk moves to its physical bulk. It needs Assault Vest. It's faster than regular Ursaluna, which is actually a downside of her Trick Room mirrors, and it needs it faster than Iron Hands, which can be a problem. But if you're like a min speed Iron Hands or whatever, its special attacking stat is good, but it's the same as Pokemon like Fluttermane. When I played with it, it felt like a more rigid Heatran, if that makes sense. Like, it does more damage than Heatran, obviously, but it can't pivot around, really. It can't, like, it doesn't have those, like, defensive switch and tempo-y things that Heatran can do. So I'm gonna put this guy in, like, B tier, because he is not a weak Pokemon, he's just kinda, eh. So that is my list. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell me why I'm wrong, and hopefully my editor made this video not miserable to watch. Thanks, bye.